Am I ready? Jeez, look at this shit. I've got a 3-year-old microphone that can barely stand up and a 7-year-old laptop that might crash at any second. Apart from that, there are dogs barking, roosters crowing, babies crying, children playing. And what happens if the neighbours start fucking? Oh, okay. Welcome to Who is This Crazy Hag? So, what are we doing here? We're looking at life. One life in 8 billion lives that is slightly unconventional and possibly interesting to the one person who is listening. Hi, Mom. So who am I? Let's just say, after a lifetime of travel, I decided to move to the jungle to write books, cook amazing food, and make art. Today, I'm going to read a story from one of those books. This is a collection of true travel stories called Phew, Ah, Ew, Travel Tales I Never Told Mum. If your ideal vacation includes lounging in hammocks and reading books, Secret Garden could be the perfect spot for you. From observing iguanas to watching hummingbirds, picking fresh tropical fruit from the garden, and walking to the beach, you can do as little or as much as you like. Secret Garden is an eco-house where you can get away from it all and truly relax. Make your booking on Instagram or Facebook at Secret Garden Mompiche. The links are in the show notes. Use the code WITCHPOD for a 20% discount on a 6-day stay. So today's story happened in Indonesia about 35 years ago, I want to say. I just got to Bali. I'd been in Bali for a little while and I'd met lots of people, lots of great people while I was traveling. And then I decided to move away from B.T.C.H and move to Candidasa because I wanted to see a particular kind of festival. And this happened. The story is called Holy Smoking Backpacks, and I'm reading from the book. The bumpy winding road out of Kuta Beach was jammed with traffic. Tiny men on rickety bicycles wobbled along the jagged edges of the tarmac, carrying huge bales of animal feed. Locals trundled up and down either side of the street, balancing their precious cargo on their heads. One wizened old man had a heavy wooden double bed frame teetering precariously on his bare skull as he trotted down the street. A tiny old lady, not 4 feet tall, carried an enormous burlap bag taller than herself, balancing the load on her head. Scruffy dogs with weeping open wounds, stray goats, dirty chickens, and bald ducks wandered up and down the side of the road. Jammu women sold traditional Javanese tonics and potions along the way. Okay, let me explain this, like we're off book now. Jammu is like a traditional health drink made from turmeric and ginger and other spices, and it's all boiled together and strained into this like a medicinal elixir. It's absolutely the most amazing thing, but it's been sold in Indonesia for over 1,300 years. And these Jammu ladies are on every corner. You go around Indonesia and they're all over the place. I actually make that at home right now because it's really good for you. Anyway, back to the book. Whining scooters with mum, dad and all 5 children squeezed on board, weaved in and out of oncoming cars, trucks, buses and BMOs. Okay, BMOs, let's explain that. A minivan that transports people all over the country. So it's not unusual to find yourself sitting next to an old lady carrying 6 upside down chickens by the feet or a man holding a goat on his lap. So a BMO, every time I refer to that, it's just a minivan. Garishly decorated trucks loaded to the clouds with rice, vegetables or wooden crates veered willy-nilly up and down the road. Pickups crammed with people bounded along, their human cargo dangling loose limbs over the sides. 24 folk singers and dancers in colourful garb, carrying myriad gamelan instruments, jolted down the tarmac on the back of a utility vehicle on their way to some kind of ceremony. Okay, let's talk about gamelan instruments. These are really interesting, actually. When you think of gamelan, it's obviously the Indonesian word. Think metallophones. So anything like a xylophone type of an instrument. They're played with metals, and there are 5 instruments that make up the percussion orchestra. So a gamelan orchestra is basically a chorus of xylophones. So now we're back to the book. Overstuffed BMOs carrying people, gripping live chickens and goats, careening either direction, at times just missing each other in passing. The drivers beeped and shouted all the way, spewing a tangle of disgruntled passengers out the door at each stop. Each vehicle travelled at vastly different speeds to all the others, negotiating the jam-packed thoroughfare at its own pace. In roadside irrigation canals, people bathed and squatted naked to perform their daily ablutions. Shuddering at the pitiful plight of these poor people without access to clean water and plumbing, I shut my eyes and hoped we made it to Ubud in the heart of Bali alive. As the incessant madness of Kuta Beach subsided and the traffic thinned out, I gazed out the window at the landscape. Terraced rice paddies dominated sweeping hills, while rivers and irrigation streams sliced through the district, creating the illusion of a luscious green checkerboard. The warm air was filled with singing birds and the soothing sounds of trickling water. Nestled among the emerald green rice paddies and steep ravines in the stunning central Balinese foothills, 25 kilometres north of Denpasar, Ubud promised Michelle and I a unique perspective of Bali. Back then, Ubud was a prospering tourist resort and a flourishing centre for the arts. The enchanting village gradually evolved into a major cultural centre as resident musicians developed gamelan orchestras, painters and authors created fine works of art, and lontar experts carved statues and ornaments into the temples in the hills around Ubud. So we're going to talk about lontars. So lontars are the collection of 600 images of the Balinese lontar manuscript that's used to pass down knowledge and preserve tradition. So the lontar artists are using those images to recreate history and tell stories. The idyllic village soon became a focal point for many foreign artists, anthropologists and avant-garde world travellers who passed through. The unruffled calmness of Ubud soothed away our Balinese blues, while the extraordinary beauty of the surrounding hills inspired me to write. Michelle and I checked into the Made Tip Tip house and immediately were made to feel at home. The locals in Ubud were wonderfully generous and charming. Our newfound friend Dewey took us to see the Legong dance at the palace that night. We spent days enjoying Ubud's rich culture of dance, music, painting and sculpture. Each night we attended the classical dance dramas of Ramayana, Mahabharata, watched a shadow puppet performance or listened to the excellent gamelan music. The night markets were alive with late-night diners, and we gorged on sumptuous Indonesian fare. Gulai and nasi goreng, surrounded by locals and tourists, all chattering and laughing at once. Gulai is a spicy stew made from all kinds of meat, vegetables, jackfruit and banana. Ours was fish, but they use all different kinds of meat in this, and a gulai is basically a stew. Nasi goreng is fried rice. Anything goreng is fried. So if the dish has the word goreng in it, it means it's deep fried. We both loved Ubud, a lush little village alive with art. One night we met Olivia at a performance of the Kecek and Kray dance. So the Kecek and Kray is like a sacred performance. It tells the story of an unseen force entering the body of the performer, who then enters into a trance-like state. So the whole performance is like this mesmerizing trance. And we've just met Olivia. She seemed nice enough and we toured the area together. Now a trio, we sauntered through the Puri Saren Palace with its maze of compounds and elaborately carved doorways. We strolled around the superbly chiseled Pura Saraswati temple behind the lotus pond near the Puri Saraswati palace. We admired the delightful sculptures of the Pura Huse temple and roamed around the Puri Lukisan Museum, gazing at paintings depicting the Balinese agrarian cycle and ornate sculptures, stopping to relax in the peaceful garden. We went to the Seniwati Gallery for Women's Art and the Gallery of I Gusti Nyoman Lempad to see the delicate pen and ink drawings of Ubud's most famous artist. Intricate paintings, extraordinary carvings, superb weavings, and decorations made for shrines. One night, Olivia said she wanted to hike around the surrounding highlands. Michelle and I joined her, and we spent a week hiking around the picturesque hills and gorges. On the way to Payangang, we stopped at the Kampuan Bridge to see the 8th century Pura Gunung Leba temple before striding into the village with its extraordinary rice terraces, stepping down towards the Ayung River below. We huffed and puffed up a long flight of steps to Penestanan village to observe the delicate works of local painters and beadworkers before trudging through the rice paddies to see spectacular views of distant volcanoes. After playing with monkeys in the dense bamboo forest, we tried to lose ourselves on a small unpaved track between rows of little cottages and then up to the Sian Ridge, where we were privileged to witness the dramatic view of the Ayang River. Further up the road, we followed a long winding path down to the flowing river, where we splashed and played in refreshing cool water, whiling away the peaceful afternoon under the hot sun, dozing on lush riverbanks. Michelle and Olivia instantly became the best of friends. At times, I found Olivia whiny and complaining, and her grating accent put my teeth on edge. Easygoing Michelle's clear-clipped tongue didn't bother me. My broad twang and bizarre sense of humour added a touch of weirdness to our international group. Despite Olivia's annoying idiosyncrasies, I found some patience and got over myself. We stuck together and hiked. We wandered through the verdant rice fields and coconut groves, through the villages of Petulu, Tegalang, and Pujang, to the dramatic sculptured rice terraces of Sebatu, and cooled off in the fresh pools of the holy spring at Sebatu. On our last day of hiking, we planned to walk to the moon. I know this sounds crazy, because who walks to the moon? But stick around and see where this road leads. The moon of Pejang lies across a spectacularly hilly country past the sites of several ancient palaces and temples. We hauled our sore legs uphill and over dale across 2 lush steep gorges into Pejang to visit the museum and a temple containing a prehistoric bronze drum known as the Moon of Pejang. That evening, Michelle departed to catch her flight back to London the following day. Olivia and I stayed together to experience more of Bali's wondrous offerings. Now, I got to tell you, this is where I fucked up. This is the point in the story where I fucked up. Anyway, let's continue. The upcoming festival of rituals in Bugbug looked like an interesting option. Just a little north of Kandidasa, Bugbug was a prosperous rice-growing and fishing village. On the full moon of the first Balinese month, the ritual worship of the village gods takes place at the Puradesa temple. The traditional ceremony lasts for days. Spectacular dances are performed by teenage boys in costumes of white and gold-threaded cloth, adorned with elaborate headdress and keris, the traditional weapon. 3 orchestras playing bamboo xylophones, drums, and cymbals, the sacred bronze selunding, simultaneously accompany the dancers along with the gambang ensemble. Okay, let's talk about what's a selunding. A selunding is basically a Balinese ensemble of music And a gambang is a wooden instrument like a xylophone but made from wood. So it would join a gamelan orchestra because of what it is, but it's called a different name because it's made of different material. Fascinated by history and culture, we set out to sample some of the true local flavours. As the rattling old bus pulled out of Ubud in the direction of Klung Klung, we still hadn't decided whether to stop there to see the palace of the god of love and the exquisitely painted ceilings of Kertagosa and Bale Kambang, or go straight on to Candidasa and head up to Bugbug. The usual motley collection of vehicles littered the road. There are parts of Bali that seem to have a mellow, liquid atmosphere, while other parts of the island feel frenzied and energetic. All roads were categorized in the frantic section. Tossing a coin between visiting the bright Klung Klung market in full swing with its vast range of local delights and staying on the bus all the way to the dramatic black sand beaches of Candidasa, Olivia and I debated back and forth. Seriously, peeps, if you're traveling with someone and there's a freaking debate about whether or not you're going to market, ditch them. Fucking ditch them. I should have ditched her. I didn't. She's arguing with me about going to a fucking market. Like, seriously, who does that? You're traveling. Go to the freaking market. It's so worth it. You don't have to buy anything. Just go. They're so amazing. Markets all over Indonesia, all over Asia, they're so incredible. Do not miss the markets. Don't argue with someone about going to the markets. Just go to the fucking market. Back to the book. The highway snaked through lush jungle, rice paddies, and endless coconut groves. The bus stopped every few minutes to pick up passengers. Just when we thought not one more person could possibly fit through the door, the bus would stop and someone else would squeeze inside, jammed between old ladies carrying chickens and men with bundles of reeds strapped to their backs. The crowded local bus lumbered slowly up steep hills, then swooped recklessly down the other side. My nose buried in a guidebook, I read about the two small temples at Candidasa, one for Siwa and the other one for Harati, that overlooked a beautiful palm-fringed lagoon by the beach. Siwa is another name for Shiva, one of the Hindu gods, and Harati, she's a deity of protection. So even though she's supposed to be a protector, she's actually recognized as a female demon. Olivia whined about the speed of the bus. I read about the sights of Klung Klung and tried to make up my mind. The festival in Bugbug would be grand, but did I want to travel any further with Olivia? To be quite frank, no. Just outside a little village near Gianya, a man jumped onto the bus carrying a small tin of petrol with no lid on it. An unlit cigarette dangled from the left corner of his mouth. Olivia flipped out. He's going to smoke. He can't do that. It's dangerous. As the bus rumbled through the fertile district of Banjar Angkan, Olivia and I argued about whether or not to stay on the bus. I couldn't see the problem. I'd spent months travelling in local Indonesian buses. People climbed onto vehicles with all kinds of crazy, weird and wonderful things. We'd been travelling less than an hour. Candidasa was another hour away. On the other hand, Klung Klung was only 15 or 20 minutes down the road. I began thinking I could ditch her there and continue on at my own pace. Honestly, when you're travelling, you put your life in other people's hands all the time. You get off a plane and get in a taxi at the airport. You don't know that person. Your life is in their hands. You don't know if there's some kind of maniac driver. At any airport, you go and you put your life in somebody else's hands. All over the world, we do it all the time. Everybody does it. Every time an Uber shows up, that's somebody else's hands. That's your life. We do it all the time. And so this guy on the bus with the thing, I didn't think anything of it. I'd been traveling for a little while. I thought that was kind of normal. Olivia nagged me to death and I surrendered. There is nothing worse than struggling to enjoy a holiday in paradise when someone is twisting your ears into knots. I reluctantly conceded and apologetically asked the driver to stop. He demanded the full fare to Klung Klung. I knew he was trying to rip us off, but sick of being harangued, I gave him the money. The difference was less than $1, and the last thing my mental health needed was another dispute over nothing. We hauled our packs from the aisle and dropped them on the hot, dusty road. A puff of aromatic exhaust fumes blew into my face as the bus rolled down the long straight road, sans its two foreign tourists. In an irrigation canal behind us, a local farmer was taking a dump. Nice, right? Perfect. It couldn't have got better, honestly. Uninspired to ask him how far the next town was, I threw my backpack on the side of the road and plopped down on top of it. Our unscheduled stop bothered me. Everything about Olivia annoyed me. If I had to spend another minute with this pedantic, whining tourist, I would throttle her. She had complained about every single detail of every little thing. We'd done some incredible stuff, seen spectacular sights, met amazing people. We'd eaten the world's best food, we'd had some magical experiences, and none of it was good enough for her. She was standing on the side of the road looking forlornly down at her too heavy rucksack and moaning about what we would do next. That was the last straw. I erupted in a volcanic display of verbal fireworks that could easily have equaled Bali's revered holiday mountain, an active volcano, the lofty Gunung Agung. I let her have it. Tearing shreds from her, limb by limb, I shouted lengthy, colourful phrases spiced with hot fury and flaming language that she had no business travelling around the world and that she should have stayed at home with her first world comforts, her cable television, her junk food outlets, and her mother. As my second sentence, something about her endless list of inconsequential grievances, began bursting from my lips in a spurt of steaming rage, frothy volcanic lava, and fiery rhetoric, the bus blew up. Fuck. Spinning around at the sound of the explosion, I stared in horror at the smoking bus we'd been sitting on a few minutes earlier. The front of the vehicle was engulfed in flames. I can only assume that the man with the open petrol can had lit his cigarette. Within seconds, a dozen bus windows popped open and screaming passengers flung themselves out onto the road, rolling into the irrigation ditches on either side. Shocked, Olivia and I stood gawking at the burning bus with our mouths agape. In a matter of minutes, the road teemed with people who had come running from the jungle and nearby farms. As I bandaged burns and helped locals carry buckets of water from a nearby well, I could have bitten off my tongue. After several hours, rescue services had transported the wounded to hospital and most of the carnage had been cleared. Olivia and I climbed onto different buses and went our separate ways, but not before I apologized and thanked her for inadvertently saving my life.
Phew. Hey there, love bugs! Welcome to the jungle! I'm Nancy Miarelli, your guide to the ecological and entomological, i.e. bug, wonders of Ecuador. With my master's in entomology and a passion for ecology and conservation, I'm here to take you on an unforgettable adventure through the mega diverse forests and more lush than you may have expected mountainsides of Ecuador. This year, I'm excited to offer 2 unique science-focused tours. Join me for a nature journaling course where we'll sit in the grass, sketch, observe, and reflect on all the creatures and plants that we discovered. Or dive deep into evolutionary theory on my evolution tour, where you'll see what you learned in a book that one time growing on the side of a tree. Ready to embark on a journey of discovery? Visit www.scibugs.info, that is Scibugs, SCIBUGS, to learn more or find me, Scibugs, everywhere on the internet. Let's explore Ecuador and all it has to offer together.
My takeaways from this story are, number 1, don't travel with people who annoy you. It's a waste of your time and energy. Number 2, if someone gets on the bus with an open can of petroleum and a cigarette, get off the fucking bus. Seriously. Travel's supposed to be fun and educational, not life-threatening. So stay safe out there. Okay, so you can find us on Blue Sky at The Witch Pod. And if you'd like to grab a copy of Phew Ah Oo, You can get a paperback from Amazon or get the ebook directly from us. Just email thewitchpod@gmail.com. That's the W-I-T-C-H pod@gmail.com to request your ebook and read along with the podcast. See you next time when we travel to Syria.